If conflict is something that makes somebody you love go blank, flat, or just completely retreat in the middle of it, that's not necessarily them being calm or chill. In fact, this is something that happens so frequently, specifically with avoidant attachment styles, dismissive avoidant the most, but even some fearful avoidants can fall into this at times. And that's not emotional maturity. It's actually dorsal vagal shutdown mode from a nervous system perspective. And in today's video, I'm gonna help break down exactly what's happening at a nervous system level beneath the surface so we can finally understand this and know exactly what to do in order to create more productive outcomes. Because honestly, if you have an avoidant loved one that goes into dorsal vagal shutdown mode and they literally just retreat, then even though it seems like they're being calm, it's not necessarily productive whatsoever, because usually they avoid talking about the situation at hand altogether, to the point where you're left feeling on the other end like, wait, we had this conflict and maybe there was this sort of small eruption and maybe it didn't get out of hand because this person shut down or retreated, but we didn't get to solve for anything either. And that can feel very difficult to be on the receiving end of. So I want to cover three main things. Number one, what's actually happening at a nervous system level and why this tends to be more common in the avoidant attachment style. Number two, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on the receiving end of this, what this feels like to be on the receiving end of this, and what your nervous system might be doing in this case if you are on the receiving end. And lastly, we'll talk most importantly about what you can do to address this in a healthier way. So here's the first thing. If you are not familiar with polyvagal theory, or what I really like is the more cutting edge system here when we talk about the work of Dr. Daniel Siegel and something known as the window of tolerance. So through this lens, when we look at the nervous system, we don't just look at the nervous system as being sympathetic, aka fight or flight, versus parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. We actually look at basically there being two branches of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is ventral vagal mode when we feel good, we feel open, we feel sociable, we are able to be present, we're able to communicate. And then we have this dorsal vagal, which is sort of this shutdown mode of the nervous system. And as you can probably imagine, avoidance, specifically and especially dismissive avoidants the most, spend a lot of time in this dorsal vagal shutdown mode. And this is where we see this numbness, this need to retreat. When people are in dorsal vagal shutdown, they tend to try to isolate a lot and push other people away. And the roots of why this happens is usually because we form our nervous system go-to responses based on what was conditioned into us and how we learn to adapt to this. For example, if growing up, you needed to protect yourself in a heavy conflict home where there was a lot of conflict happening a lot, then you may have learned that by you popping yourself up and getting big and mobilizing through sympathetic nervous system, this fight response, that might have actually been beneficial to you. And so because you learned to adapt to that, and maybe you avoided conflict or people got intimidated by you when you mobilized and you had this anger response going on, well, when you did that, this gets conditioned into you. Now, beneath that is actually a set of core wounds. You believe that you're unsafe or you believe that you're unworthy. That core wound fires off when you have adult conflicts later on, because that's how you've been conditioned to actually perceive conflict. And now that core wound fires off and it causes this emotional cascade, which is made up of neurochemical reactions that then signals to your body it's time to mobilize for a threat. So you can imagine that this core belief activates, it creates this emotional output, which is made up of neurochemical reactions, which then cause your body to prepare to go into this sympathetic activation and mobilize. And if you're somebody who is quick to anger in a conflict, that was learned. You know, if you look back on your relationship history, you getting angry was something that was protective for you. It was adaptive. And it doesn't mean that it's very healthy as an adult necessarily. Your anger may ward people off or sabotage relationships or push people away. But in that case, it would have worked at some point in time. And so now that's what you do as an adult. And that is this system that ends up taking place. And that's very common, by the way. That's more common for our fearful avoidant attachment style. They'll tend to fight or flight. They will leave things suddenly, run away, or they will fight back. When we look at dismissive avoidants, they tend to more frequently go into this shutdown mode, this dorsal vagal shutdown. And by the way, they spend generally an inordinate amount of time there to begin with. And this is because where there may have been positive reinforcement, you know, if somebody angered as a fearful avoidant growing up, and that actually caused people to back off. Dismissive avoidants didn't have that same outcome. Either their anger was something that was not met with any sort of positive experiences where they felt like they gained a sense of control back or safety, or their anger was met with even bigger anger, causing them to feel like their anger was unsafe. And what we see all the time is that dismissive avoidant attachment styles, they tend to see their anger as something that's negative. They tend to see their anger as something that doesn't get positive results. Sometimes they're afraid of their own anger. And so this is what we see instead. Dismissive avoidants, they go into this dorsal vagal shutdown. They shut down to stay safe. In other words, you can imagine that somewhere along the way, they got conditioned with not just core wounds, but with these behaviors to follow, okay, that basically decided for them that the threat that they had was too big or too inescapable to fight. And so instead, we have to power down. And that was the way that they stayed safe, or they tried to navigate their environment in the best way possible. So now we have somebody who, when they feel this dynamic of stress or threat, their body chose shutdown because at some point that was the only thing that yielded the best results for them. And if they grew up somewhere where their anger got punished or ignored or just made things worse, then in general, this person learns, no, fight or flight is not working for me. So I have to go into this shutdown mode instead. This pattern often just runs on autopilot throughout a lot of their life. And if you didn't know this already from other previous videos that I've done, or if you've never checked out our somatic processing course inside the personal development school, one thing that you'll see is that what actually takes place so frequently is the reason dismissive avoidants struggle to co-regulate with other people and struggle to be okay to spend time not alone, but spend downtime with other people is because they don't know how to be in this dorsal vagal shutdown mode and be around other people simultaneously. They feel like they need to retreat. And a lot of times what happens, you can sort of imagine dorsal vagal shutdown as being something your nervous system evolved to do through times where, if you can imagine you're out looking for food, right? We look at like our ancestors and they're out looking for food in the wild. Maybe it's cold at night and they haven't eaten in 2 days. Well, what do? Our nervous system literally shuts down. We try to stay super still. We try to conserve all of our energy and our resources. And maybe we're cold and we're trying to just sort of cuddle up and stay warm. That shutdown mode is something we evolved to literally conserve our energy. But if somebody's nervous system, because of their past experiences, is spending an inordinate amount of time there to begin with, imagine trying to be in a place where you're in this energy conservation retreat mode, and then you're trying to connect with other people. I mean, those are just counterintuitive. And that's where we're so far from ventral vagal, that open, sociable safety mode at the same time. And so we'll see, because these nervous system states are not synonymous with each other, that you're not in a place when you're in dorsal vagal mode to be open and sociable. And this is really impactful. If you've seen dismissive avoidants frequently go into numbness, and you're wondering, okay, what do we do in this particular case? And by the way, fearful avoidants do this too. This is not unique to just dismissive avoidants. It's just that dismissive avoidants spend more time there pervasively, whereas I often find that fearful avoidants spend more time oscillating between sympathetic activation mode and then this dorsal vagal shutdown, rather than spending much time in that middle centered place in their window of tolerance. So it's really important to recognize some of these things. Now, before we talk about what to do, I want to let you know, if you want to go deeper into this topic, you can actually check out for free for 7 days our nervous system and somatic processing course. You'll definitely get through it in 7 days. It's like 2 hours of content, and it really helps you understand your nervous system and how it works and what state you're in and how to regulate at will. So it really goes deep into that. And with that, you actually get a gift, which is our self-love course that you get to keep for free for life, that helps you rewire blocks at a subconscious level that are preventing you from having a harmonious, loving relationship to yourself. So you can check those out fully for free for a limited time down below. Now, I want to tell you this last thing. What do we do if we see somebody in a conflict that goes into this shutdown and then doesn't come back to re-regulate? In 2 simple steps, you ideally want to address this when this person is not in dorsal vagal shutdown. So you may say to your avoidant loved one something like, hey, I know that we had a bit of an argument earlier, and I want us to be able to hash this out in a healthy, respectful way that feels comfortable for both of us. Let me know when you're ready to do that. And this person may hear you and feel like, okay, clearly you come in peace because you're literally trying to say that you want to have this healthy conversation and address it through above board communication. But they may also not follow through. So they may be more open and feel a little more comfortable addressing things, but it's up to you if they don't follow through to have a healthy conversation within a day to follow up yourself and to say, look, I want to have this conversation now. It's really important that we do so. And you want to make sure that in that conversation, you are positively framing your needs. So saying what you do want to happen instead of what's not happening. For example, the difference between you don't care about me, you never spend any time with me versus, hey, I want us to spend more quality time together. Let's plan a fun date night this weekend. One will get you heard and make the other person not go into this dorsal vagal shutdown, and the other will just keep you locked in this cycle together with your loved one. Now, last but not least, I want to be clear about this. It's not like, oh, this should always all be on you 24/7 if you're the loved one of somebody who spends an inordinate amount of time in dorsal vagal mode. I want to let you know that if somebody is spending a lot of time there, you ideally want to let them know about this. And there are really powerful exercises in that nervous system course for how to regulate a lot of these responses so that we can co-regulate better with others. So you can definitely share that with them. But you ideally want to set a deadline to see, is the needle moving in our conversations? Is this person able to step out and have a healthy form of communication instead of always being shut down? And set a deadline for how long you're willing to work on this relationship with this person if they're not working back on it with you. Because at the end of the day, healthy relationships require reciprocity, and you want to be vetting for that as well. So I hope this was helpful for you today. Let me know any questions you have down in the comments below. Let me know if this is something you've experienced or you've seen happen a lot with loved ones or people close to you. And make sure you subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss any of these daily videos. Thanks for watching.